Welcome to Doomscroll. I'm Matt Sheffield.
And I'm Lisa Curry, and we are just days away from the first presidential debate with the new
With these
nominees
candidates.
between these candidates. And in a couple of months, Trump is going to drop out, and then there'll be a new set of candidates. We are not that lucky. The Harris-Trump debate will be happening on September 10th, and as of last night, the night before this recording, they have gone back to muted mics while the other person is talking because that is what Trump insisted on, which is funny. It does feel like that is coming. It's feeling like his team has a gun to his back and is like, for the love of Christ, say you would like to be muted while she's talking. Because I can't imagine he came to that decision on his own.
Yeah, well, it's like, I think they realized that it was beneficial to him because
Mm-hmm.
it was originally Joe Biden's idea when he was the Democratic standard bearer, the presumptive nominee. And, it turns out, and Biden people were saying this as well, that when Trump was muted to the audience, but not to Joe Biden, it kind of threw him off, basically, because he didn't actually stop talking. He was still talking, but you couldn't hear him. We couldn't hear him on the audience on
Mm-hmm.
TV. And, it's like, Trump's, that's his entire shtick is smash mouth, motor mouth, never shut up the insults and the blabbering. Biden's an old guy and he couldn't handle it. Like, the thing about Donald Trump is he's so stupid and so crazy that when you hear him talk, you know that he's a bullshitter who's, just a moron. And it's
Mm-hmm.
bad for you to hear him. And the only way that Trump ever goes up in the polls is if you don't see him on the TV. Like, that is the
Yeah.
secret to when
It's the
Trump's numbers
opposite
go
of the
up.
JFK effect. I will
Yeah,
say
basically.
the one thing that will be nice about muting him is we will actually be able to hear what Kamala Harris intends to do once she is in office, because I think that there's a lot of questions around that. My biggest question, I don't really care whether they're muted or not because I feel like there's benefits and disadvantages to each. I would like to know if we'll say, alleged journalists moderating will eh, push back in real time against falsehoods, because Jake Tapper and, was it Dana Bash that did the last one?
Yeah.
Neither of them said anything. They just sat there and accepted
No.
all of Trump's bullshit. And you know, Biden also said something that was not correct. And they didn't push back on either of them. And then they did a debriefing later. But the debate, as you and I both know,
A fact check.
was,
Yeah.
well, the debate was fed directly through Fox News. What wasn't fed to Fox News was the debriefing afterwards, where they talked about everything that Trump said that was a lie. So it's like, you've already lost the opportunity to speak to his audience. Now you're just preaching to the choir. This is not helpful. Why bother? Are you just filling airtime? Put a tap dancing routine on. At least it's more entertaining.
Mhm.
It's very frustrating, and I would like them to call him out in real time. But again, I say alleged journalists because do they even have the ability to do, like, are they even adept enough to do that? I really am wondering why that wasn't done last time. I guess I'm very frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, it's a fair point, and that's why I think that the Kamala Harris campaign, they've realized that mainstream journalists are not up to the task of doing real interviews anymore. Because
Hmm.
like when Trump, because like even outside of these debates, quote unquote, or interviews, quote unquote, like the formal interviews, like whenever they get Trump to sit down somewhere and talk to him, they don't follow up with him. Even there, they don't. Like when he's not there with an opponent or whatever, that's like, he'll go off and say shit like, there's countries that are sending prisoners across the border and insane asylum residents across the border. And there's no evidence of that. And he said it for years and has
Hmm.
never been asked, What the fuck are you talking about? Where's your evidence of that? Like, he's literally said this for at least 3
Do
or
you
4
think
years.
maybe people don't bring these things up to Trump because they think it's elder abuse?
No, I think it's because, I mean, look, I think it's just because, like, they have this, a lot of journalists have this fixation with, I'm not going to talk about something unless it's news currently. Like, that's their obsession. They have this idea that, well, it's not worth talking about if it's not news. And so they're like, well, I'm not going to ask him about something he said that's not true and it wasn't true for 4 years. Oh, well, people know it's not true. And it's like, no, they don't, actually. You know, the unaligned voters that don't know very much about politics, like, they hear him say shit like that. Or, you know, like he just said that kids are going to school and then they're coming back with a sex change operation. Like, that, he said that to the Moms for Liberty. Like, this is like the kind of shit that your, you know, grandpa that you put into a rest home is screaming at the Christmas parties every year. And you're like, oh, it's time to, I think grandpa can't handle himself anymore. It's time to put him away. Like, and this guy is
Yeah,
be,
exactly.
you know,
Trump shouldn't have a driver's license anymore, let alone be the president.
Yes. I mean, it is like, and so Harris and Walz are like, I'm done with that stuff. Like, I'm not going to, like, they were not doing big sit down interviews with these people because their interviews are fucking worthless. Like, half the questions are about, well, Donald Trump says this. Who cares what Donald Trump says? Who the fuck?
You know what it reminds me of? It's like when comics, I'm speaking to just comedians here, when we go on the road, whatever is going on in comedy at that time, and this especially, I'm sorry, it especially happens to female comics, whatever's going on in comedy at that time, that is what you get asked about. Years ago, I went with 2 other comics. We went, 2 other female comics. We went on a huge tour. We put it together ourselves. We made up a fake manager. We were shooting the whole tour. We got on morning news and radio and all these places. And it was when the Bill Cosby story was huge. And rather than ask us, holy shit, how did you guys book this huge tour being complete unknowns? How are you pulling this off? Every single person that interviewed us asked us what we thought of Bill Cosby. And I finally said, I hope he kills himself. And there is no video. They have wiped that because that was on morning news. Because I'm like, what? You're asking 3 young women, rather than focus on our work, you're asking us what we think of a serial rapist? Why are we giving him airtime? Why are you asking me to give my promotional time to him? Fuck off. And so I agree with the way they're handling this, because I saw the one interview that I think, I'm assuming you must have seen as well. They were like, well, what do you think of Trump saying you're fake black or whatever? And Kamala's like, please, let's move on. Let's not dignify that with any commentary. And she shouldn't play into that, because it's like, what are we even we're talking about who we're going to elect to be the most powerful person on the face of the earth. I don't give 2 fucks if she did pretend. I don't care if she's black or was black and transitioned away from it, or like whatever, like her identity,
or is secretly white.
Her identity as an individual really means nothing to me. It's her character, her morality, her decision-making skills, her ideas for the country. Those are the only things that any of us should care about. And I feel like if all of cable news got together and everyone just evened it out and went back to that in a crumb of normalcy, then it would be that we could, if they all do it together, which isn't going to happen, then we'd be in the right space again.
I was like, yeah, that would be nice. And if I had a unicorn that could shit rainbows.
No, I have a better chance of stepping through this doorway into Narnia than we have of cable news suddenly being reasonable.
Yeah, and like, no, it's so true. And as an example of that, you know, Republicans, they are so desperate, and we've talked about it on the show before about all the bullshit imaginary scandals that they've come up with about Tim Walz. And now they got another one that they are wanting the media to talk about, which comes from one of his Republican brothers who apparently doesn't like him, and he's got this new shocking red alert scandal, which is when they were kids, Tim Walz threw up in the car on road trips on him.
I love that he is so, and look, I'm really trying to not hero worship with him because that is my policy with public servants. Although lunch ladies really should be put on a pedestal. Anyway, I love that they are just really grasping at straws for him because he's just such a pure, kind person, which I am very curious to see how he serves as vice president and how he affects Kamala and how the vice presidency shapes him moving forward. I am using the secret and saying that he's going to get it. But the problem is, like, one, Trump's followers, there's so much toxic masculinity within his base that a lot of his followers would be like, yeah, he's not tough. That's what sissies do. They puke in the car. Like that. They're going to enjoy that. Yeah, they're going to enjoy that. And then also, I don't know if you saw this, but there was also this week, there was a story that got spread very widely. And it was a fake story about Kamala doing a hit and run, I guess, like hitting somebody with her car allegedly and killing them. And they show this windshield of a shattered windshield of a car, and they're like, she killed this young black woman and this and this. And somebody did a reverse Google image of the car, and it was from a car accident in Guam in 2018. It had nothing whatsoever to do with her. She wasn't even in fucking Guam. And what is so frustrating is everyone that's already seen that is not fact checking. The people that went out to, that the audience that was intended for is like, yes, correct. She did a hit and run.
This happened. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and they're not checking.
Yeah. No, you're right. And like whenever I read right-wing blogs or like forums, like they're constantly saying things like, well, this thing happened and the media won't report it. And it's like, well, because it didn't fucking happen and you're a moron. Like they do that all the time with the Georgia election workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, that they're like, oh, they had these suitcases of ballots. Where was the media coverage of that? And it's like, there were no suitcases of ballots, dumbass. But well, yeah, like that's the thing. They just throw all this shit out there and none of it's true. But it doesn't matter because it's just so much shit and it covers everything. That's their goal.
People also do that with things that are even on the news. I mean, God bless, I see some of my progressive friends sometimes that are like, why is nobody talking about this? And I'm like, there's literally a 60 Minutes piece on it. What do you mean, why is nobody talking? Just because your aunt isn't talking about it or your dentist isn't talking, like, people are talking about it. You're the one who just discovered this. So relax.
It is very unfortunate. Is not an argument.
It is very unfortunate though that people, the audience that the disinformation goes out to is not the same audience that the corrected information goes out to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's two different. So it's ineffective. Issue. You don't need to tell me that some of these things didn't happen. I know that by way of logic and reasoning.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of disinformation, Russia continues to be in that business, and some federal prosecutors based in Tennessee, or I guess, was it? Hold on. I guess I won't say where they were. And speaking of disinformation, federal prosecutors announced in an indictment of 2 employees of Russia Today that they had fronted a secret network to send $10 million to right-wing YouTubers. Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, and some of these other shitheads as well, the racist Lauren Southern. And they were paying them millions and millions of dollars for basically nothing. Like, this is, I mean,
Pretty
it
good
validates
stuff.
everything that people in the disinformation, journalism beat that
Hmm.
we've been saying. Like, basically, these right-wing commentators, like Tim Pool in particular, they fucking hate the United States. Like, Republicans, like, that's the great irony of American politics, is that the right wing hates America, but they also say that everyone else is unpatriotic. That's what this
Hmm.
is. And like, these people were literally working for Russia, and and getting all this money, and this other the woman who ran the thing, her name is Lauren Chen, and she, according to the indictment, knew that it was Russia that was paying for this shit. Like, if
Hmm.
your content is indistinguishable from Russian propaganda, uh, you know, why would any Americans want your content? Like, that's, I don't know, but it shows, like, there's just unlimited right wing oligarch money and unlimited Russian money.
Also, these guys are so fucking corny. Like Tim Pool is always in a beanie. You can't be that cold everywhere you go. Any man that's never not in a
It can't be
hat.
that
It's like
bald.
we know what's going on. We know you're losing your hair. Come to terms with it. Have a little bit of pride about yourself. You look like a 4-year-old in a beanie all the time. You look absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And why don't you use
And
some
they're
of
not.
those millions of dollars to get hair transplants? If you're
And
bothered by it
I
that much.
would love to know also. I Let me say it this way. I wish there was a way to directly give this information to all the Russian soldiers that are fighting in Ukraine for probably 4 rubles a week, whatever it is, um, to let them know how much podcasters in America are getting paid to simply talk in a studio and bullshit and spread Russian propaganda versus uprooting their lives and putting their lives on the line and killing people for no reason. Because I feel like the entire Russian army would be like, fuck you. We're done. We're out.
Yeah, that's yeah, good idea. Ukraine should beam that information into them,
That's all you have to do.
because yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
just get a
like,
projector and project it on the side of buildings in Kyiv or wherever they're going into.
yeah, exactly. Well, and yeah, and like, but they also are not just, we're getting this Russian money, but like, I think that the Russians also prop up their YouTube hits. Like, if you watch Dave Rubin, you watch Tim Pool, these guys are
Mm-hmm.
fucking morons. They have absolutely nothing worthwhile to say about anything, literally
Nothing.
anything. Like, they, at most, the only time they're ever correct is if they're reading an article that someone else wrote. That's it. Like, what they have
And
to
that's
say
alleging that
is
they can
just
even read.
dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and actually, they do often misread things and are like, "Oh, see, I found this thing here." Oh, wait, never mind. It says this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's half of their, like. It's just, I don't know. Like, it validated everything that I had thought about these people, because like, their content is just garbage, and
Mm-hmm.
it's probably being propped up by Russian bots in terms of their views as well. So it
They're
fucking
really
sucks.
people on the right. Look, blanket statement. They tend to be some of the dumbest people alive.
Ever.
Like they're currently people on the right are, I guess, in a way, boycotting Amazon's Alexa, which I think is a creepy device anyway. I don't want anything in my house listening to me, even though things are already. I don't like it. And that is where I'm a little bit of a tinfoil hat person. But they're upset after this video went viral of this woman asking her Alexa, why should I vote for Trump? And Alexa said, I don't get involved in politics. And then she said, why should I vote for Kamala Harris? And then it was like, here are reasons why you should vote for Kamala. So these people, and this is what
Yeah.
they do with every one of their boycotts, which um, I feel like perhaps they don't understand what the fuck a boycott is because I mean they have shown that to be true. What they do is they
No.
buy the device and then they videotape themselves smashing it. It's like, sweetheart, it isn't a boycott if you're buying it because Amazon Alexa doesn't care if you shove it in your ass. when you buy it. They just want you to buy it.
Yeah.
You can buy 100 of them and set them on fire in a funeral pyre in your backyard, and they don't care. That is not what a boycott is.
No, it isn't. But Amazon did say that they fixed the glitch. But I mean, I'm also thinking, like, why the fuck would you ask your Alexa what are reasons to vote for anything? Like, is that really where you're going to get your advice from? Like, you are stupid if you're asking that question. Like, I can see a elementary school kid asking that, or a middle school kid asking that. As an adult, who the fuck cares what, some thoughtless, brainless AI thinks about who you should vote for?
Well, I mean, to be fair, Matt,
Stupid.
The Alexa does have more of a functioning brain than a lot of the people on the right. So I wouldn't say, I would say brainless goes the other way around. But also, I mean, obviously she was just doing this as an experiment because they think that there's this worldwide conspiracy for people to silence Trump, even though the media coverage of him is absolutely nonstop, even from people on the left. And it is so frustrating because they're like, can you believe that he did this? And it's like just something stupid that doesn't even matter. It was just something dumb that he did. And he gets so much airtime. And that's part of why he was elected in the first place, was name recognition.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and then speaking of other rich right-wing dipshits, Elon Musk is back in the news for that Brazil has banned Twitter from the country, or as we say, as I sometimes like to say on Twitter, I call it shitter, using the Chinese pronunciation Xitter, like she. Anyway, but yeah, they banned Twitter because Twitter would not present someone who was their legal representative. Like, how can you do a business in a country and then
a multi-million-dollar business or multi-thousand-dollar business? I don't know where they're at right now.
Yeah,
financially, they're
and you
not
don't
great.
have a legal representative. And the judges were like, okay, well, who do we send complaints to about your policies or your content? Mm-hmm. And Elon Musk refused to do it because, in fact, he was trying to protect a bunch of bullshit right-wing accounts that were loyal to the Brazilian Trump, Jair Bolsonaro, and they were spreading bullshit as right-wingers do everywhere. And Elon Musk didn't want them removed, even though, of course, he loves removing left-wingers or people who criticize the government of Saudi Arabia, or he removes content all the fucking time. Like, I know people who are still banned from Twitter, including somebody who was a journalist trying to report on Elon Musk. Elon Musk does not believe in free speech, but he believes in it for his fascist fuckheads like himself. He just refused to comply, and Brazil was like, okay, well, then you're banned. And you can't have any sympathy for the guy, frankly, I think.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. He's also, I do think he's dumb as fuck. I wonder, I can't tell if he genuinely doesn't know what the concept of free speech within America means, which is that the government isn't going to silence you, because he says so often that we don't have free speech. And I wonder if he truly believes that, or if he is knowingly spreading a lie. I can't tell, because he is genuinely so dumb, but he's also so evil, and I can't tell which one is the forward thought
it's hard
there.
Where's the... Yeah, it's probably both. That's my general
probably 50-50
answer to questions like that. Yes. Yes is the answer, not either or. But yeah.
And speaking of computer assholes, tech assholes, OpenAI, the company, is pleading with British Parliament right now, and they said they as a business are unable to make money unless they are able to steal content. They literally have said we have to use people's copyrighted content to train our systems, or we cannot function as a business. And to that, I say, sayonara. You should not be able to steal people's work to train bots or to anything. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Also, AI uses tons of, it's really bad for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It uses humongous computer systems. I hate it so much. I think it's creepy and it's unnecessary. I think the only time it should be able to be used, I think the only time AI should be legal at all is in the medical field to help research for a diagnosis. That's it. I don't even think it should be used in like to search documents for like law cases or whatever. If you're a lawyer and you can't find precedent for your case or whatever you need, then you're not a good lawyer. You need to study more. But if AI can help save a life, I think that is a worthy cause and nothing else.
Well, I think I mean, the AI in the legal world, it's been there already for like 10 or 15 years, actually.
Oh, sure, but I mean, like
just looking through papers people give to, like, no one wants to read.
Right, but it's not forming an argument. It's not coming up with it's not. Elena Kagan isn't using it to write a dissent, you know?
Yeah, although, you know what, though? You know what, actually? Somebody who did use it to write his book was Nate Silver. And he just came out with a new book. And he was like, in his acknowledgments, he thanked ChatGPT. and he was like, I don't like its writing style, but I used it to write headlines for my sections.
Then you know what? You don't call yourself a writer. You're not allowed to call yourself a writer if somebody else is doing your work. I mean, like, if there was a basketball player in the NBA that was being run back and forth on the court on another basketball player's shoulders and just holding the ball and dunking, buddy, you're not playing. You're not running. You're not shooting free throws. You're not shooting 3-point shots. You're not doing anything. You're literally just riding on somebody else's shoulders. And that is what all of AI is. And I have to say, sorry, everyone listening that is going to take this as an attack, but anyone who calls themselves a writer and uses AI to write is not a writer. And I say that as a writer. That is something, yeah, I will not budge on that.
Yeah. Well, this is just another example, though, of these, Silicon Valley venture capitalist people that they don't actually create value. Mm-hmm. All they do is they take things from people who are lower on the economic strata than them, and then they centralize it.
Absolutely.
And then they try to sell it back to you at the same time.
They also invent things that already fucking exist, which drives me insane. And they think they're like groundbreaking, and I'm like, no, you've never been outdoors. You've never talked to another person. Like, I saw a couple years ago, they quote unquote invented something where it was like a floating raft that has like a tent on it. And they're like, you can camp on the water. And I'm like, yeah, that's a duck blind. That's a duck blind. We've had that for a millennia. That is what hunters go and float out on, like a makeshift cabin to hunt ducks on lakes that already exist.
Yeah.
Or
a houseboat, yeah.
Like when Elon Musk was there's a million examples of this that aren't coming to mind, but another one that I thought of that is so stupid was Elon proposed that Los Angeles solve their traffic problem by building tunnels underground that were wide
Mhm.
enough for a single car, not wide enough for the car to open its doors or for an ambulance to come in or police car, anything like that. Wide enough for a single car so everyone could drive like single file underground. I'm like, buddy, you just invented a less effective train. That's not and people are like, he's a genius, and I'm like, he's the dumbest person that ever lived. I can't take it
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, and then yeah, and then at the same time, when he was pushing that shit, it actually led to the cancellation of a high-speed rail program in California because people were like, "Oh, we don't need that because Elon's going to make a tunnel," and then he didn't make the fucking tunnel, and then we didn't get our high-speed rail either. So, fuck you, Elon Musk.
We are, though, getting a high-speed rail between allegedly LA and Vegas. This is making me, sorry, this is a side note, but this is making me so mad because they're pouring so much. I can't remember what the number was. There's many
A
millions and
huge
millions and
amount, yeah.
millions of dollars on this, where it's a high-speed train between only Vegas and LA, which, look, if you leave Vegas on a Sunday afternoon, you're going to have a 10-hour drive back to LA instead of 4.5, which is what it should be. Um, but it cuts the drive down to 2.5 hours versus 4 hours. But it starts not in LA, it starts in like Riverside, which is an hour inland from LA anyway. So I'm like, oh, you saved me 30 fucking minutes? How much is parking going to be at the train station? That's what I would like to know. Because I don't think it's going to be worth it. Also,
And how
Matt,
far away
can you
was
imagine something worse than being trapped on a train for 2.5 hours with a bachelorette party? Can you imagine something worse? I'd rather be trapped with
Ugh.
the Taliban for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Well, and like to me, I didn't understand like why as California would you want to pay for a train to another state? Like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like run it inside your own state if you're fucking paying for it. And maybe the casinos are
Well,
paying
I
for
think
some of it.
even
I don't know.
outside, I think
Um,
the United States could use a more expanded and uh, lower cost train system overall. I would love
sure.
to take a train across the country. It is so expensive. It's really expensive to go even to San Diego or to San Francisco. And it's like, comparatively,
Hmm.
if you go to Europe, I mean, yeah, European countries are each a lot smaller than the
Well,
United
hell, even
States, so
just the
it's
East
easier.
Coast, Lisa.
Even just the East
Like
Coast.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that's something I'm Amtrak. Like when I was in lived in DC, I could go to New York, for a day trip and then fucking come back in the afternoon when I was done with my business. Like it wasn't a big deal. And it didn't cost me a few $100 to go there, like it would have on a flight. Like I could take the subway to the Amtrak and then go. And then that was
Yeah.
it. Like it was fucking great. So yeah, like I 100% agree with that. Anyway, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely
Anyway.
we have transitioned from comedy here.
Yeah. Hey,
uh,
speaking of bachelorette parties, a sperm donor, a super donor, the super donor behind the Netflix show 1000 Kids is suing Netflix so that he can pay for his 1000th kids.
yep. And he says a number of things, including that he says that the number of children the documentary said that he could have fathered up to 3,000 was incorrect. He says 550. That's the number I know for sure. And it's like, okay, like,
After you
are you
have
really making yourself look better with
I
that?
feel like if you were a farmer or you own some kind of like mom and pop thing that takes a lot of labor, maybe you have a crab fishing business, you can have a maximum of 10 kids. After 10 kids, you get 1 year of prison for every child you have because you were contributing to it's too much. You can't care for that many children. You can't teachers can barely care for a classroom of 30 at a time. And they don't have to remember those kids past a year. You
Mhm.
can't, you're a dad. Could you raise
Yeah,
550
I
kids?
definitely No, I would not. Well, and he isn't trying to raise them, we should say, in his favor, but he was just trying to donate
Being
the
his
sperm
comment.
to various people. But like, here's the thing: like, if this was just in the small country of the Netherlands, like, you have, if it's 600 kids, let's say that's the low number, right? 600 children in a small area. That means that when those people hit adulthood and don't know that he's their father, they could be having real children with their step sibling.
Well, the thing is, I believe the law is, well, in the United States, or at least in California, because I have a friend who's donated eggs a few times. I believe you can only donate eggs or sperm it's 2 or 3 times, maybe 3 times, because of exactly that. Because then the likelihood starts to go up that your offspring are going to meet in the world and fall in love. And not everybody runs a fucking blood test before they have kids together.
Yeah. Which, and here's the thing that is so fucked up, though, is that in his lawsuit, he said he wanted the documentary removed from the internet for the sake of the children who are being recognized on the street. And it's like, buddy, you made those children. Like, it's still going to, like, the consequences for them, at least if now people know who they are and they can know who each other are, then they will not fuck their
Netflix has done a service for them. Netflix is going to win that one. They're going to win for sure.
I think so. And I think everybody would want him to, I would think. This guy is a psycho. Like, he literally was having to lie on his forms and say he was someone else, or lied to the families. It's just like,
also, I'm going to say, I find it hard to believe that one man is that desirable. That one man's genetics are that desirable. Come on, buddy. No way.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what the, that's a good question. That's a good point. I forget what he looks like. So, watch people send us tweets and be like, oh, he's hot. Of course people would.
And if that's what you think, guys, keep it to yourself. I don't care.
Whisper it to your stepsister when you're in bed with her.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, and I guess for our last story of the day, another case of the legal system at work, and that is that a woman who was a employee for Wells Fargo in Arizona had died at work. And she was found 4 days later. She clocked in on August 16th and was found at her desk in an office on August 20th.
And she will be written up for unauthorized overtime, just to update everyone on that. She will be reprimanded, so don't you worry. Wells Fargo will not let her get away with that. I feel like this is the perfect story to illustrate how absolutely out of control capitalism has gotten and how far away from being compassionate humans we have gotten in pursuit of more money. Who the fuck goes to work without noticing their coworker is dead for 3 days? You don't find them till the 4th day? What? What, did they put her in the vault? This makes no sense.
Well, officially they told USA Today that the woman was sitting in a, quote, very underpopulated area of the building. And so that's why they didn't realize she was
they
dead.
Put her in the basement?
It's like, and like wherever she was sitting, like, she's your employee. Like, I mean, this to me is the best example of how shitty the management of Wells Fargo is. Like, if your employee's dead for several days, like,
do you really want them managing your money?
Yeah, like, you want that? They can't even take care of their dead employees and understand what the fuck they're like. You know that old phrase, like, what is it that you do here? This woman's fucking dead for days and her boss didn't even notice it.
How much would you bet? Not that they would ever reveal this. How much would you bet that the manager was going through the log when they were preparing payroll, and they were like, Melissa never fucking clocked out. I have to see what time she left on Tuesday. I can't, this is outrageous. How irresponsible of her. And then they call Melissa to see why she didn't clock out on Tuesday. And the phone rings from the other room, and they follow it. And they're like, oh shit, she's dead. And how do you not notice a corpse for that long? What position did she die in? That's also my question. Was she sitting up? Were her eyes open? Was she nodding off?
Yeah.
Does she have an open yogurt on her desk? What is, I need them to paint the picture for me, because I need help understanding this.
No, exactly. And it's like, yeah, and I could 100% see that it was a payroll person that ended up seeing that, wondering, 100%. Where is this woman? And that they didn't care or notice, because they don't do any work at these banks. They do nothing. They serve no useful purpose to society.
This is also a reminder to anyone looking for a job. You know, your prospective employer is going to grill you with a lot of questions. Like, what is your biggest weakness is a common one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is it how have you resolved an issue in the past? Ask them if an employee has ever dropped dead unnoticed for several days at a time. Ask them why the current position is open, actually.
And they do always have that moment where they're like, yeah, and they do always say, well, do you have any questions for me? There is one for you. If you don't know what to say, that's the perfect thing you can ask.
Is anyone listen in California? It is, because we believe in ghosts here in California. It is a law, by the way. I don't know if you know this, Matt, because you're newish here. It is a law that when you're being shown real estate for a rental or to buy, they have to disclose if somebody died there by law. Oh, wow. So I think also we should amend that law to include, you have to disclose if any employees have died on the fucking clock in your business. We need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine no one would want to work in that office ever again. So for sure, absolutely.
I need to know what she died of also. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to
fascinated with this.
Get ready to wrap up, actually. So that's our last one for today. So thanks, everybody, for watching. And
thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.
Yeah. Give me a follow on Instagram at Olympian Lisa Curry. Thank you.